Support for this podcast comes from Redesign.co. As an SGI member, you can receive a 100% fully optimized website that's hosted for free. Have a website you already like? Redesign.co can dramatically boost your presence on Google free for 90 days. Redesign.co also has a full-service digital marketing agency that can assist you with all of your online needs, including PPC. Call 208-261-9898 or visit sgileads.com for more information.
Welcome to The Successful Contractor, powered by Success Group International, a show for residential contractors about residential contractors. We chronicle business journeys, share insights, and celebrate successes in this wonderful industry. I'm your host, Bob Houchin. Hello there, SGI family and other contractor friends. I'm so thankful you're here. As a reminder, all episodes of the Successful Contractor Show are available on YouTube as well as your favorite podcast player of choice. Before we get into today's episode, I wanted to remind everyone that registration is open for your SGI Fall Expo. It will be held in beautiful Temecula, California. That's Southern California wine country. Now, if you want to come early, for 2 days prior, Learning Alliance is offering a class called Developing Effective Managers. So come check that out. I know we're going to have over 1,000 people in attendance at this expo, but there are only so many rooms because this is a smaller property. So please register soon. You can do so by visiting your SGI Hub website and doing so right there. I look forward to seeing you there. Today's show is actually a new program we're offering at SGI called SGI Monthly Member Panels. These are interactive live programs where an SGI coach joins me and two SGI members to discuss a particular topic. Our very first monthly member panel featured SGI coach Sonya Fryar. She joined me along with Jim Bodine of CGS Heating and Air and Jake Wheeler of WireOne Electric. And we're discussing how KPIs drive operational decisions, KPIs standing for Key Performance Indicators. This was a great discussion. I think you're going to enjoy it. It was filled with insight on how to maximize that bottom line profit. And that begins knowing your numbers every single day. Each one of these member panels begins with a short coach presentation. In this case, Sonya delivered a great one, very short but very impactful. Now that's only available to SGI members. You can catch that presentation, this whole discussion we're going to have on the Hub. SGI members will have those numbers. Those numbers can also be found throughout the Hub. So they're easy to find, but check out, talk to your coach if you have any trouble finding them. Everyone else not an SGI member, come join the family and you can get access to that great information. So with that being said, here's my discussion with SGI coach Sonya Fryar, Jim Bodine of CGS Heating and Air, and WireOne Electric's Jake Wheeler discussing how KPIs drive their operational decisions. I hope you enjoy it and take away a nugget or two. Thank you, Sonya. Appreciate you tossing it over to me. I am thankful for everyone that's on this call. Appreciate you making time to sit with us and to sit through this great content. I mean, like you said, we have two incredible members, two gentlemen I've known for some time, both highly successful, growth-driven businesses that are both highly profitable. And not only are they great stories in business, they're great members, help lots of other members. Take a lot of time to do that, take the phone calls, the meetings at outside of Expo, and probably a whole bunch of other stuff that we don't even know about. So you two gentlemen would please turn your cameras on. Guys, thanks for coming on. I'll have you introduce yourselves one at a time. And Jim, because you're the first one I see on the left, and that's how I learn to read things. If you would you please share your name, your company name, and where you guys are located? You're all over Ohio and Midwest now these days, right?
Yes, my name is Jim Bodine. I'm with CJS Heating and Air. We started in Dayton, Ohio in March of 1994, and we have locations in Columbus and in Indiana, and we're still on the hunt. So
I like it. Very good. Nice to have you on, Jim. Thanks for joining us. Jake, if you would do the same, would you please share your name, company name, and where you are located?
Yeah, Jake Wheeler, WireOne. We're primarily in Des Moines, Iowa. We do some work in the eastern part of the state as well.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Really glad to have you on as well. Jim, I'll toss the first question to you. Obviously, you're not the only one responsible for KPIs in your business because you have multiple locations. So maybe share who is ultimately in charge of driving those numbers in your management team at this moment.
Well, we have it broken down. Each location has an ops manager, so they're primarily responsible for field KPIs. Everything from service, to sales. They're responsible for those numbers. And then in the office, we have a call center manager, and she's responsible for the call center KPIs. And then financially, each person has certain responsibilities within the financial KPIs. So.
Right. If I'm not mistaken, your call centers all run out of one office still? Is that accurate? Okay, good.
That's accurate.
Yep, very good. Now, Jake, now you have the one location, but you also have one. I'm assuming your one other manager kind of helps monitor the KPIs. Is that how that works for you guys?
Yeah, that's right. So we have a service manager who has a handful of KPIs that he's responsible for. There's a portion of them that I'm still watching. And then we have a marketing manager. He's got 3 or 4 KPIs that I hold him accountable for. And then, of course, our accounting. So.
Very good, very good. And Jake, we'll just stick with you. Let's dig into what some of those core KPIs maybe you are watching and your team is watching carefully. Could you maybe share the handful that you are worried about? Maybe not worried, but you're monitoring closely every day that ensure that you guys are going to hit your goals every week, every month, and every year.
Yeah, every day we're looking at sales, revenue, and the number of leads coming in, and then how many jobs do we get booked out of that? We have weekly, we follow somewhat of a traction model. And so weekly we have a leadership meeting with, I don't know, like 6 of us. So we call that our L10. There's 9 metrics we're watching during that meeting. I can run through those quick if somebody wants to. But yeah, so I mean, we're watching income. We just kind of start at the beginning. Are we getting enough incoming leads? Of those incoming leads, are we booking enough of them? So what's our booking percentage? How many opportunities are we running? So out of that, we can kind of deduce our run rate or how many are canceling. Of the ones we run, how many are we selling? Again, that will tell us our closing rate.
Sure.
And then we're looking at our total sales, our total revenue. We expect that sales should be leading revenue by somewhere around 6 to 7%. And then we're watching our average ticket. So
very good.
We expect out of one of those closes.
Now you have an unusual KPI, right? You have some for your dispatcher. Sonya, you want to maybe lead that a little bit? You had mentioned that to me that Jake does something unique with that. I think I'd like to highlight it before we forget.
No, definitely. I hate to put Jake on the spot like this, but Jake, one of the common questions, I like to pick on Jake, anyone who knows Jake, right? One of the common questions I constantly get when I help people with call center is, okay, we know how to do spiffs for our call center people, but how do we do it for a dispatcher? And I haven't found a lot of companies that's really found a really easy, streamlined way to look at like some kind of sort of bonus system other than off gross margin for their dispatchers or tracking how soon techs get to jobs, this or that. Now, I know most companies probably don't track quite as thorough as Jake does. If any of you get the pleasure to spend time with him, you'll all understand quickly what I mean by that. But Jake, I was just curious if you would share with everyone, what are you doing to track your dispatchers so you can help look at reviews and bonus them and things like that? Because I know you kind of have some unique things you're doing.
Yeah, happy to, but I would definitely not go as far as to say that it's easy or streamlined. But we do have a scorecard for our dispatchers. But gross margin is a percentage of that, as well as where we land in relationship to our revenue goal. I think the dispatcher, at least in our model, has a lot of say in that and getting the right guy to the right job and keeping him motivated or in the right mind frame to serve that customer well. Additionally, there are a few other things we give them responsibility for, or we hold them accountable for. We're watching our billable hour efficiency. So is our dispatcher making sure the guy has all the information he needs to go be successful, whether that's returning to a sold job where he needs to have material coordinated ahead of time, or something as simple as, is the customer ready for us to come back, or did we show up and waste an hour and a half going there and leaving? So billable hour efficiency is one that we task our dispatchers with. Our run rate, Bob, we mentioned that briefly here before we jump on this call, or maybe I mentioned it as part of our L10. So we're watching our run rate. We don't think that should be 100%. Some of those calls probably are going to cancel, and we want to make sure that we're sorting for the best ones. One of the biggest things we hold our dispatchers accountable for is our percentage of revenue retained. And so that's the way it's a positive reflection of how much backs out. Basically, we say we sold this much work, and of that, we actually ended up completing this much. So I think the dispatcher has a in our company anyways, dispatcher has a large role in that, in communicating with the customer, keeping them in the loop, getting whatever process needs to happen, material coming, subs lined up, equipment rented, utility and permits coordinated appropriately. That sometimes can hold us up, and if we don't accurately communicate with the customer, we have a tendency, or at least the possibility, to lose some ground there. And then the percentage of work rescheduled, but that's kind of a different one that we track. We actually think we should be rescheduling a certain amount of work. So from our perspective, it should be about 10%. If we're rescheduling more than that, we're probably not managing the schedule well. And if we're rescheduling less than that, we're probably not sorting for the best calls. So that's one of the other KPIs we hold the dispatchers accountable for.
Good stuff. Very good. Good. Sonya, thank you for bringing that up to me beforehand, so we were sure to ask Jake about that. Jim, I'm going to throw over to you. You have HVAC and plumbing. Obviously, I think HVAC is a much larger piece of the pie, but could you discuss maybe some of the the core KPIs you and your team are watching daily to ensure you guys ultimately hit your goals?
Well, there are the normal KPIs, and I'll hit on them because they're super important. But the one that I neglected to watch as my management team grew was the cash KPI. So I like to say we're looking at, are we growing the cash every single day? On the DMR, there's a spot for daily profit and monthly profit. And so the first thing we look at every morning in our huddles is, did we grow that cash, right? Did we grow cash from the previous day, or did we lose cash from the previous day? So we want to make sure we're always growing cash. And then when we're not growing cash, then we kind of zero in, okay, how many sales calls did we run? How many did we close? That's a huge KPI right there for us, is the sales in our business drives the biggest, moves the needle the most. So, when we sell jobs, we're making the most money and doing the most with the business. So, how many of those jobs did we get closed? The gross margin, now that's not necessarily something that we can kind of gauge daily. I wished it was easier to do that, but it hasn't been an easy KPI to measure daily. We basically have to get like a good gross margin that we average for like the last 2 or 3 months, and we report by the 10th the gross margin. That's a big one too, because if you're selling stuff but you're not selling at the right gross margin, it's useless. So then outside of that, what was the average ticket in sales? Because there again, if you have a guy like in our company, we're selling, the average job is around $9,000 to $10,000. Well, if you have a guy starts dropping into 35, I haven't seen 35 in a long time, but 45 or even 6 anymore. I mean, that's a low number. We need to really work on that. Then comes service, obviously calls. Another kind of epiphany that I had for I've been a member for 10 years, and it was a couple years it took me staring at that DMR going, this is my goal, but how do I get there? Well, I started realizing that I could control the calls. Like, maybe I can't make the phone ring, but I can make it ring out, and that was an epiphany for me. I would say the two things that were kind of an epiphany for me was that and watching the cash. So the rest of it kind of, is how you fix it. Your labor, you look at where your labor's at every day. You see yourself getting out of line, you got to make quick fixes. I love the DMR because we use it. It's like flying an airplane with it. It's like all the gauges. Always just picture myself holding the DMR. Trying to keep it level.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Very good. Awesome.
Hey, real quick along those lines, I'll tell you who you should have on this call is John Polizzi. He's the one that's got figured out how to track his gross margin every day.
Well, good. Now, John, if you're watching this, you're going to be on the next show.
That guy up and see if you can't get him on the line. He's probably sitting on the beach somewhere.
That's good stuff. John's great people. We'll have to pull him on. I'll blame you, Jake. It'll be your fault. So no, I'm sure John would be happy to be on. That's good stuff. Great. Well, let's hop back over to you, Jake. So your KPIs, are you resetting them every year based on what your budgeted goals are, and you go, hey, we have to hit this percentage to meet that goal, or do you just have a foundational KPIs for each one of those numbers that you just got to hit year after year?
Yeah, there's a little bit of each, Bob. in regard to KPIs that are tracking a percentage, a lot of times those remain relatively static.
Right.
But if they're KPIs about how many of this, that, or the other thing, or how many dollars need to come in, of course, those are going to be adjusted to match what the current budget is.
Right. Do you and your manager sit down to determine those, or are you pretty much the keeper of those numbers and you manage them specifically?
Yeah, we have a small leadership team that sits down and figures that stuff out together. We use or follow a business process of scaling up. It's very similar to traction. I think there's others that are pretty into traction. So anyways, as a result, we have a meeting rhythm. Like I mentioned, we have a weekly L10, and then quarterly we sit down for a day off site to readdress the budgeted goal and what needs to happen in order to stay on track for the annual goal.
Sure, very good. Now, does each individual technician or call taker have his or her own KPIs that your targets? You don't just have a broad, we want X percent, sold or the X percent average ticket. Does each one have their own targeted KPI?
Yes, sir, they do. We have a scorecard for every, I wish I'd say we have one for every position. There's a couple positions we don't yet have a scorecard for, but most positions have a scorecard. So call takers have a scorecard, dispatchers got a scorecard, service managers got a scorecard, technicians have a scorecard. So yes, They have their own individual set of KPIs that they are responsible for or accountable for. And yes, those are adjusted to be applicable to the individual and the position.
Right. I mean, how much is reasonable growth, on an average ticket if a guy's already doing $1,200 and you go, hey, we really want you to do $1,500? I mean, is it sizable? Is it just dependent on the guy, and what you think he or she can still do?
Yes, it's definitely dependent on the guy. So we've been blessed with an amazing team, and we got some super high performers. And so as much as anything, we just try to stay out in front of those guys because they're doing a good job, and we just try to feed them with opportunity and give them the ability to go around and do a good job.
Right. Very good. Thank you, sir. Jim, how about you? How are you setting your KPIs every year? Do they change much? Is it driven, I'm assuming, by what you budget for each year?
Well, we have upped our replacement average ticket every year. And of course, we're always, whenever we sit down to do our budget, we always, try to stretch that, net goal. Sure. Even though we don't always hit it, sometimes we go backwards, but we're always trying to push the net goal. We're always trying to push the ticket average for sales up just a little bit. We feel like, that's something that, equipment gets more expensive. There's always new products that you can add on to the sale. Sure. So from that standpoint, we do. A long time ago, I started pushing the service ticket up, from the 250 to 300. And then somebody advised me, and I can't remember who it was, but I kind of just drank the Kool-Aid that when you get up above 250 into that 300 range, you really should be working on flipping those as sales leads. So, that's kind of the direction that we, encouraged our team. Now, I still see, I think yesterday in Dayton, we had a $500 ticket average. So I'll still see days where we have it and even months where it's up around 300, but we don't push for a $300 ticket average. As a matter of fact, when we're climbing in that direction, we're looking for more leads to be turned over. So.
Right, that makes sense. When you get together with your management team, do you allow them to provide input for those budgeted goals and those KPIs and how you're going to influence those?
Yeah, absolutely. Each manager has say in what his DMR is going to be, and we do the DMRs by 3 months, every 3 months. So I look at the DMR like a budget. I mean, I handle the operating expense side of the budget myself. Yeah. But my managers are operating or are working the sales side of the operating expense. So, if one guy says, hey, and for instance, the guy in Dayton says, hey, my team can do an $11,000 ticket average, and the guy in Kokomo says, hey, my team can maybe only do an $8,500 ticket average, I'll let them do what's reasonable. I always tell them I want them to give me reasonable goals. Don't give me some shot in the dark and then miss it by $1 million. Now if you give me something that you've done over and over and over and you miss it, that's one thing. But if you're constantly giving me a target, and I've seen this on revenue a lot in the past, where they would give me this target revenue and I'm like, where's the trend at for this? You know, where
Yeah.
like, because I keep
The
a trend
clouds.
chart, and I'm like, where have you ever done that before?
Yeah, sure.
And
Right.
I don't want to bring them down. I just want to be reasonable. I always tell them, hey, get the goals you get, the DMRs, which are budgets to me. When you give those to me, give them to me as achievable. You can stretch a bit. I'd like to see that, but then go blow it up. Go blow it up and create a new trend.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good stuff. That's great. Now I'm assuming same with Jake. You guys, your individual salespeople, technicians have individual KPIs, goals that they have that you ask them to meet based on prior production.
Yes, and as well as prior production, Bob, it's as much about them helping, like them hitting their goal.
Yeah.
So again, like we have a BHAG or a great big goal of trying to provide opportunity to up to 200 families. And that sounds crazy because we only have about 26 involved right now. But anyways, that's our goal, right? And so for us, all of that revenue ultimately ends up being just like the revenue we've realized recently. Jim talked about having an epiphany. We kind of had that about a year ago. Like revenue can't be the goal, or at least not for very long, because people will stop chasing it.
Yeah.
What we identified is that it's just that amount of revenue is required to help us hit the goal of providing opportunity to the families that are on board with us.
Right. Very good. And then Jim, you said, just toss that question to you. You're each individual salesperson, technician, they each know what their individual KPIs, targeted KPIs are every month, every year, what they got to hit.
So to be quite frank with you, we used to do that, and maybe we still are, but I need to check to see if we still are. But I can tell you, when I've sat in many meetings where we were doing that, and we actually passed it around at the beginning of the month, and we let them set their goals. And even if their goals were lower than the targeted, again, as long as they were progressing up, and the people who set their goals lower, they were expected to do more training, if you will. They were expected, I like to say, stick their nose in and make a tackle, so to speak. So get in there and learn it, figure it out, and get better. But I haven't checked with my managers to make sure they're still doing that. So that'll be a good reminder of this call will be.
There you go. Very good. Now you mentioned, Jim, you use the Deemer, like a quarterly Deemer almost, to kind of keep an eye on your numbers. Jake, do you have a Deemer, or do you just have a software platform that you kind of monitor as things are chugging along?
Yeah, we lean on Service Titan and the dashboard and reporting system within that quite a bit. So we pull some information out of that to fill in our weekly L10 report, for example, or a monthly scorecard for an individual. We do not specifically use the DMER.
Yeah, understood. Now, if you see numbers that are trending in the wrong direction, or let's say this, you notice a technician that's had maybe a bad 2 or 3 or 4 calls, or when is it time to blow the whistle? Let's put it that way. When you notice, let's say an individual technician isn't doing well, when is that time to intervene and call them and see what's going on?
For us, we try to keep a pretty open line of communication. So that's going to be relatively quickly, 2 or 3 calls, like you said, Bob. We're not going to let that go multiple days where the guy's in the rabbit hole. We see a couple not go quite like we would expect, and maybe we say, "Hey, bud, like I bumped your next call. Go get a haircut. Take a break for a minute." I guess that's a pretty common thing, actually. Like, go get a haircut, grab a shake, and
is that a training
at the next one? So we keep our dispatch board pretty fluid, so we move those calls around quite a bit to allow for that, whether a guy's job has to stay or he needs a break, and we just try to cut him a little slack, I guess. And then we might have a little bit of a coaching call, like, hey, this looks good, and you know what? If you would have spent a little bit more time with that customer, maybe something more would have came of it, or whatever the case might be.
Right. So that happens right after, say, that second or third bad call where you just tank. So you have that coaching conversation right away, and you keep it positive. It's more inquisitive. You're not bad mouthing anybody, right, for having a bad day.
That's right. Our service manager is watching that and staying on top of it. Additionally, they have a few group messages going on, and so there's lots of, cutting up and positive interaction for the most part in those messages. So they actually have a group that I'm out of, so they kind of are free to say or do whatever they want to do.
Oh boy, and, I don't know if you want to look at that now.
Yeah, you don't know. Like sometimes there's guys fishing in the middle of the day. They're supposed to be working.
There you go. No, I don't think that's.
But at the same time, like they're hitting, you know what I mean? They're hitting their goals and expectations we have of them. And so.
Sure. No, good stuff. Jim, kind of same question to you. When you guys, and I know it's really your managers now, and the team below them, when you notice an individual technician or someone's not performing, you get 2 or 3 bad calls, or a salesperson gets skunked 3 or 4 calls in a row. It just happens, right? But how is that managed? How does your team respond to those situations?
Well, we will coach them up, and I the managers are watching it every day.
Right.
I personally operate under the 3 strikes rule, but the 3 strikes rule for me is days. So it's 1, 2, 3 days in a row, then we got a problem. Somebody can have a bad day, but they string 3 of them together. To me, that's a problem. So
yeah.
But the managers are watching it call by call. So
right.
They'll literally reach out call by call, and then occasionally we'll put in the group chats, anytime that you walk out with a $0 ticket, to give me a call personally. We don't do this all the time. It's just kind of randomly a couple times a month, but that's really effective because I think some people were nervous about it at first, but when they realize when they call me, I just kind of go into coach mode. I'm not there to kind of chew on you or make you feel bad or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm usually just kind of talking to you, seeing how things are going, hey, what's going on in life, and then, what happened with that call, and then what can we do to be better, and then, hey, go get the next one, and it just, I think that enlightens them quite a bit, and they enjoy the fact that they got a chance to chat with me for a little bit about things, and usually we notice when we do that, we have really good results. So but the managers, and the managers will do ride-alongs. Very commonly do ride-alongs. Our ops managers aren't responsible for any of the, when I was the general manager, if you will, I was responsible for training sales, training bookkeepers, training call takers, figuring out the advertising program, watching the budgets, doing all this stuff. Our ops managers are just watching what's happening out in the field, so they have more time. And we really encourage them to make sure that they're spending that time coaching their team. So
yeah, what happens on that 3 strike rule? So they have 3 really bad days. Does someone automatically get re-enrolled in some kind of training, or is it just that call from Jim that happens, or what is that? What happens?
Coaching sessions. We'll pull them in for a coaching session. We'll pull them in for a couple hours. We'll pull them out of the street, if you will, off the street. Into the office. Maybe we'll go out with them. I say the managers will go out with them.
Right.
It's normally most of the people love the people they work for. So, and I say the people because they're people working in my business for managers, right? They love their managers, and so they don't want to let them down. They want to work hard, and they know the goal, and they also know there's an open line to me too if they need it. So.
Yeah, let's level up a quick second, because you have multiple operations and multiple levels of management. If you notice one of your branches is having a rough couple days, they're having 3 rough days in a row, how do you insert yourself into that situation to try and remedy it, to maybe coach them up, or try to identify what maybe what's hindering you guys in whatever way?
Well, first I'll dive into the DMR. Then I'll Adam manages regionally, so I'll talk to Adam about it. But I do I call a ride along. But my ride along might just look like pulling a chair and some makeshift desk up in one of the manager's offices. So, and just hanging out with them for the day. And really, I found that coaching is a lot like it's a lot like selling. You're really just listening and kind of asking questions, leading questions to help direct them to see what it is that they're missing. But you're not trying to give them the answers. You're really trying to help them to see the answers on their own. That's the best coaching. It works the best that way. And honestly, every time it empowers people. Every time you empower somebody to think about the solutions on their own, then you'll get better results than if you're telling them. And if you're always telling them, they're always going to come back to you looking for that answer too. So I do ride-alongs is what I call it, but my ride-along is like sitting in somebody's office. I do that commonly.
Yeah, good insight. I like that.
Support for this podcast comes from Rhino Fleet Tracking. Rhino is an industry-leading commercial vehicle tracking company with an array of vehicle and equipment tracking solutions, which provides you valuable data about your drivers and fleet. Their live Texas-based customer service has led them to more than 12 years of success. For SGI members discounts and more information, visit rhinofleettracking.com.
Welcome back to the show. Today's show is our very first SGI Monthly Member Panel. It features SGI coach Sonya Fryar, Jim Bodine of CGS Heating and Air, and Jake Wheeler of WireOne Electric. We're discussing how KPIs, or key performance indicators, drive operational decisions. We have had lots of great information so far, and we have lots more to discuss. So let's jump back into that discussion. Let's shift a little bit. Jake, question to you. You've got a bunch of high-performing electricians that put up big numbers. I'm assuming, it's not just because, there's an element that drives that, right? There's got to be some competition that they're seeing each other's numbers. So what does that look like at WireOne? Do you just have a scoreboard posted up traditionally? Is it on monitors? How often are you updating it? How often are they looking at? Well, yeah, you guys are all remote. So how does that work?
That's right. We don't even really have it. I mean, we got a shop, but nobody goes there and has for almost a year now. So, or probably longer than that. Like I was telling you before the call, nobody really gone to our shop since probably, I don't know, 4 to 6 months before COVID. Anyway, so yes, we do have scoreboards, and no, it's not on monitors, and no, it's not traditional scoreboards.
Right.
Anybody rolls in and fills out. Everybody has service titan access to their own dispatch or to their own dashboard. Okay. And then twice a week we jump on a coaching call. So there's a training call that the service manager does with the technicians in the field, and he'll do a screen share and he'll post everybody's numbers at that point. They'll kind of just go through and take the service titan dashboard apart so that guys can see it from whatever angle they want to see it. Who's leading in sales, who has the best closing rate, who's got the most revenue completed, whatever the case might be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess in those training meetings, are you just talking through different situations maybe that weren't as successful, or you find things maybe an electrician did that was unique to get a sale, or do something that's interesting in order to share that, or how do those training meetings typically flow?
I think all of that happens, Bob, and then they look for all the best content they can from you and try to use that to fill some space.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to come up with stuff to say all the time. I think, if you want to, but yes, all of those kind of things happening. They're reviewing invoices and calling out like, hey, everybody, let's see how we could have done this. Okay. Everybody has ideas of how that could have been better. There's lots of competition that happens, and lots of bantering back and forth in multiple team chats. And so I think that is a good thing. And so that encourages each other to keep going up. And of course, we got a bunch of guys that want to be the best. And so they push each other and set pretty high goals for themselves as well.
You guys got a text thread going while everyone's running around too?
Yeah, that's right. It sometimes surprises me that they ever get any work done at all, but that's awesome. I mean, that's what keeps them going, right? And you talk to John, and you've done an interview with him. He wants to be the best, and and so as a result, we get a few other guys chasing him, and then it gets pretty fun really quick.
That's good. That's excellent. All right, thank you, Jay. Jim, how about you guys? How do you show everyone what they're doing to kind of foster that competitive angle and get them going? And it creates some juices flowing. Everyone wants to beat the next guy. So what does that look like at CJS?
Well, we still stick with kind of the old airtime model, if you will. Maybe it's still the new kind of airtime model. I don't know. But from management standpoint, we get a DMR every day. I usually have it before noon, and on many days I have it by 10 o'clock. So all of us, and that goes out to all the managers so you can see what you do. We have a 15-minute huddle the following at 7 o'clock every day, and everybody reports on their KPIs, and including cash. How much did I grow the cash each day? Call center manager reports. Everybody reports their numbers. And as far as the technicians go, in meetings a couple times a week, in the meetings, they'll get the report cards, and they actually write. We use green and red. So green means they hit the goal, and red means they didn't. And they'll write it right on the, whatever you call it, the whiteboard or whatever they call it. So
there's that psychological influence on maybe getting a little tighter with your calls, right? And I'm assuming you do the same thing for your sales guys as well, right? So techs and sales guys, it's kind of monitored and reported the same way.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, awesome, very good. You know, the second, let's change subjects a little bit. You know, you got to monitor, you got to show the numbers for everyone to get them going, but you also have to reward them for hitting different goals. Jake, let's throw it to you. Do you have any kind of you know, spiffs or you know, any kind of financial reward for hitting gross margins or just certain sales, or what do you do to kind of dangle a cookie in front of your guys just to push a little bit harder?
Yeah, the technicians obviously are like have a vested interest, right? Because they earn a commission. So they got
Okay,
a
you
lot
earn a
going
commission.
right there just to help keep driving it. All of our office positions have some sort of a bonus structure attached to their scorecard. And so yes, like I mentioned, gross margin is on both dispatcher and the service manager's scorecard, and then they have a bonus structure built around that. As far as specific rewards or spiffs, we set quarterly goals as a team, and because we're pretty spread out and kind of all in different areas, we use that as an opportunity to get back together and, you know, with the goal of kind of building the culture. So we set some reward goals, and the better, like the closer we are to hitting the goal, then the bigger trip we'll take or bring everybody together for. So those are things we try to do on a quarterly basis. And then just at Sonya's direction, randomly, we just, I don't know, send a gift to the guy's wife or something to that effect, you know.
There you go. No, that's good. That's a good angle. I like that a lot. I like that. How about for your you know, like your service manager? Is he compensated in some way to meet gross margin and to help your guys not to start buying or wasting a bunch of stuff?
Right, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if it's right or wrong or too simple or too complicated, but yes, our service manager, about 50% of his comp comes from how well the team performs, ultimately how well he performs on his scorecard. It's heavily weighted with gross margin and whether or not we hit the revenue goal, which he's a part of setting. So it's not like it's just dictated to him. He's a part of setting that revenue goal.
Right.
That kind of determines a large portion of his compensation.
That's great. Good stuff. Thank you, Jake. Jim, same kind of question to you. How are you? What kind of cookies are you dangling for, you know, your salespeople, for your technicians, in terms of spiffs, or you know, if certain targets are hit?
So salespeople, once they get above 150,000 for the month, they get a certain percentage of the total sales extra than what they got on their commission. And then when they hit 200,000, they'll get a little bit more, and then so on and so forth. So we give them, you know, a little bit extra commission for each time they hit one of those marks. Managers, again, I follow the airtime model, where it talks about paying X percent based on sales. So we basically take a location and we say, okay, this location is going to do this much in sales. So we give a salary based on the percentage that's recommended in the model. But then we adjusted it up or down based on gross margin. So we do what we call settlements. Now, we'll never take money from them, but let's say you went negative on your settlement. Well, then your next settlement might have to level that one back up. So.
Okay, very good. How about you know, you've got plumbing and you're selling clubs. Are guys getting spiffed on clubs, or your call takers selling clubs?
Yes, we just pay a flat $25 for each club sold, and we found that to be very effective. We sell a lot of clubs. We have over almost 7,500 clubs, I think. So,
awesome.
yeah. And as far as plumbing goes, well, all we're doing right now is water heaters, but we're in full. Like, we've got 2 trucks in the parking lot. We've hired 2 plumbers. We have marketing plans put together. We just haven't launched it yet.
Yeah, no, that's all right. No, that's good. That's good. I'm assuming they'll be selling a combo club with plumbing and HVAC at some point.
Yes.
Okay.
We just updated our club pricing. It goes into effect on. They'll be grandfathered for the previous club members, but the future club members will pay just a little bit more, and then I'll include a plumbing tune-up also.
Okay. How are you gonna ignite that plumbing fire? Your CCR is gonna start gradually mentioning more commonly, hey, we do plumbing too, and get that rolling that way?
Yeah, we're going to kind of manage what we have for plumbing manpower, and when they don't have calls, we're gonna just send them out on tune-ups at first, to do safety inspections with our HVAC tune-ups. Just as a, we'll let the client know, hey, by the way, this includes, your tune-up includes a plumbing inspection. So we'll just send the plumber out at the same time, and he'll do a plumbing inspection. And we really feel like between just getting the word out and doing those, that will, again, it's something in motion stays in motion kind of thing.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. Sonya, I'm sorry that you're sitting there all quiet and stuff, but have you heard any other interesting ways companies are kind of, dangling any kind of carrots to incentivize performance as it pertains to gross margin? I know you're talking to members all across the country all the time.
No. Yeah, I hear a lot of different things. Most people I do hear, if it's a management type role, they're doing a percentage off the gross margin. If you hit your gross margin, we're going to pay a certain percentage, of course. As far as more of the front line, call takers, I'm hearing a lot of spiffs on call booking percentage, cancellation rates. If you got multiple call takers, some people who even take it advanced, and they'll do average truck ticket, the call booked by the call taker, because the more of the value they can build, the more they can set that tech up for success. Dispatchers are really hard. For technicians, of course, we hear all kinds of monthly contests, same as Jim just said, club memberships for call takers and technicians. Monthly contest is huge. Average tickets, closing rates. One thing is, I often hear on Frontline is people feel like the same people are constantly winning those top dog awards, so to say.
Sure.
So I think it's always important, because you don't want your other people to quit trying to maybe even offer something like most improved average ticket.
Okay.
We're trying to help everyone get that way. So there's some other little things we can track there too, and get definitely very creative on.
Oh, that's good. That's a good point. Excellent. Thank you. I have a bunch of round robin questions, is how I kind of phrase it, that I'd like to throw to the three of you. The first one I will throw out. Actually, I'd like to hear all three of your inputs on this, because this was a member-driven question. And Jake, I'll start with you. The question was, what is your number one go-to when you aren't hitting the following KPIs? And there's three of them. So average ticket, tech closing ratio, and call center booking percentage. So what do you do when you immediately notice those issues in those three?
So let's work through them backwards. With our booking percentage, it generally just amounts to encouraging and more praise for the call taking team. When those, for us anyways, girls feel good about themselves and feel like they're doing a good job taking care of the customers, they actually end up doing a better job taking care of the customers. So we want them to understand they're appreciated, and when we don't do enough of that is probably when we see our booking percentage come down. One more thing, I guess, like real hands-on, it could be that maybe we got lax in the number of calls we're making as well. So not only fielding inbounds, but we might not be trying hard enough to connect with leads that reached out to us. Okay. So very tactical there, I guess.
The other two are average ticket and tech closing.
Ticket and closing rate. Yes. Closing rate, I believe, is similar. People say, like, people buy from people they like and trust, right? And like everybody knows that. And so to the extent that our technicians are genuine in their concern and they're like legitimately trying to help the customer come up with a solution, we'll end up closing the deal. When we see that not happening often enough, it usually means, hey, we're kind of running through those calls. We're looking for the easy sell. We're just checked out a little bit for the day. Yeah. And so we want to step in, encourage that technician. Hey, like, we want to do right by the customer. You need to genuinely be there looking for different ways you can help make that happen. Average ticket being low is, for us anyways, often a result of not offering options. Okay. So it's just going in and kind of like taking the customer's direction and just slapping the fix on whatever it was they asked for, instead of being the expert and saying, hey, I get that you asked for this and this and that also apply. I'm sure you want me to go ahead and do those as well. Yeah. So. Okay.
Very good. Jim, same question to you. I know your managers are more or less probably doing this, but but obviously you've managed it hands-on in the past. When average ticket, tech closing ratio, and call center booking percentages are off, those three ones, what do you do?
So I'll hit on the manager's thing for just a second. I still have the same process. I just do it through a manager now. So right. I have. When I see things digressing, usually what I'll do is quickly find out that we've gotten away from doing something that was fundamental, right? We've gotten rid of doing a role play or setting goals, or we're doing ride-alongs or whatever. So that's what I do is I dive in with the managers. Hey, what's the problem, right?
Yeah.
And then I'll coach the managers up for the most part. But we've empowered them to manage, so they go do their job. And with call takers, I see everything from just a couple times we meet, we calls the phones. They go to the answering service. Everybody goes back and does the training, and then comes back in and catches back up on the calls and the dispatching. They put a message out to the field letting them know that they're out for just a little bit. But again, I've talked to my call center manager multiple times. Hey, it seems like maybe we've not done training. I haven't heard any training done in a couple weeks or something. And she'll she'll get back after it, get back in rhythm. Something took them out of rhythm. A meeting got canceled or two. And that's where you got to be careful. Something gets canceled once or twice, and before you know it, that's the new habit, right? And then you have these things that start digressing. Same thing with technicians. Just reaching out and calling them, or bringing them in for one-on-one coaching, or just doing ride-alongs with them. And sales is the same way. Sales now will actually run them back through a sales class, which we've taken the SGI model and kind of customized it within our own organization. But we also send them out to CSD too. So we do both, because I think there's a lot of value from getting around people around the country, than just people in our room. But at the same time, we don't want to always have to wait. And we have some things that are kind of near and dear to us that we've implemented in that. Same with the technician training. We call it the Yestified Tech training. So, but it's the same thing as what you guys are teaching. We've just modified it a little bit to be with some of the things that we find near and dear to us. But we run those once a month, and we bring all the new guys in, and we sometimes we'll bring somebody in the field that's been struggling into those too. So.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Sonya, I should have let off with you, because you talk to enough members and coach them through all this stuff. So when you've got members that their team, they're not hitting their average tickets, their tech closing ratio, and their call center booking percentages, what's those coaching conversations look like?
Sure. Well, I can definitely echo what these two gentlemen just said for sure. But in addition to, I think as soon as you see a text not hitting, whether you're watching individually or as a group, we got to find out, is it one individual for the one-on-one coaching, or is it the whole group? So we can customize our training for that. But the first thing you got to do, whether it's average ticket or closing rate, is review invoices. And when I say review invoices, that's not just the invoice. That's the inspection sheet. That's your performance report. That's going to be your options, depending on what trade you are. At last expo, Abigail Chen did a session on reviewing invoices for airtime and roofing, and I actually did one for electrical and plumbing. Go back and watch it if you are having an issue with that, because we dive into it to probably a different level. We peel back a lot of layers of what a lot of stuff can tell you just by reviewing invoices. So you've got to review the invoices. You're going to see what they're missing, and you've got to start coaching the techs. And then in addition to that, I think as an owner or a manager, you've got to work with your dispatcher for that accountability piece. You've got to tell them who's struggling and on what, and they need to notify you as soon as that technician calls in to debrief. Hey, they didn't do their inspection. Hey, they didn't do this. So you can get them on the phone right then. So I think you can utilize your dispatcher with that as well. And there's definitely the accountability piece. Another thing is we forget to look at is time. How long was that tech at that job before they presented price? Did they have time to build value? That's a huge thing. And then on our call takers, I think it's listening to the calls with them. Just like you'd review invoices, let's listen to calls and see what we need to tweak to get to that next level. Are they telling price before they're telling value? Are they building any value in us? Are they being empathetic? Are they being genuine? It's just crazy. Their tones of voice can make a huge difference. So, I mean, I think this is a conversation we could have all day long, but I think it boils down to diving into invoices for your techs and listening to calls, and then role playing with both too. And almost like Jim said, jumping in the truck doing a ride along for your techs, or jumping into your call center. I know he called it a ride along. I call it a set in, when you sit there at their desk and sitting there with them if you have to.
Sure. This is my next question actually was to you, and it'll play off, I think, what you just said, but what are 1 or 2 tips you would give members that would help their call takers set better leads for their techs and or salespeople?
So I think it's actually product training. I don't know if that's where y'all were expecting to go that. How many times do you have your call takers set in on your product training? Techs get knowledge of it. Let your call takers get knowledge of it. When they get enthusiastic about something, it's contagious. And I think that's huge. And when they know about product and they can just mention it in conversation and get excited, people are begging your B player text VART without them even having to bring it up. And it's crazy. So, I talked a little bit earlier about your average truck ticket per call taker, and that's where you can find that. But I think product training is a huge part. Another part is generally being able to connect to that client. Do they understand like disc profiling? Do they show empathy? Are they genuine? And just really understand the values. I can't tell you how many call takers have never done a ride along. I know with COVID, some couldn't, but we have 6 steps to a successful service call role play condition with Carrie Atkins. Show that to your call taker, sit down, let them get that visual so they can really see what the technicians are doing so they can better set those expectations, I think, with the customer.
That's great. Good stuff. Jake, shoot a question over to you. What do you do at WireOne? We know you guys are great at selling stuff for sure. But what do you do at WireOne to keep your materials percentages where they need to be so your gross margins where it also needs to be?
Well, we're battling right now, Bob. It hasn't been easy.
Okay.
So yeah, we're battling, and probably need to do more there. But it seems to be kind of a trend that's happening here. Other than that, what do we do? So we're shopping. We should be shopping that material. I mentioned to you before the call. This is gonna sound crazy, but it's my 15-year-old that orders all of our material, and he orders it all drop shipped to the tech's house. So he sometimes does better than others. But he should be shopping that material, So when we go to get a quote on anything, you should be just sending it to all of our vendors at the same time. We're getting better at that. I'm not gonna say we're perfect at it. We're getting better at it. And then for us, a big part of it, which might not be applicable to everybody, but is to watch that shipping expense, because we're not bringing it to a central location and bringing all of our techs in. We're instead sending that material out. We got to watch what it's costing to get it to those guys' houses, basically.
Okay.
I don't know if that completely answered your question, but that's what we do. We shop. I mean, I don't know if there's a lot of other options. We shop that material. We try to take advantage of any discounts we can by paying our invoice prompt or on time or whatever we're asking.
Good stuff.
And then,
very good.
And then we try to make up the difference on decreased labor by getting the material to the guy.
Right. Excellent. All right, Jim. How do you keep overtime to a relative minimum so you're not killing your labor percentage and also you're not killing your team?
This time of year?
Get out there.
It's easier to do in the office, but because in the office we can kind of draw a line as to when we roll things over to our on-call services, if you will. But in the field, it's very difficult because things take longer. People call in sick. You got extra jobs. It just I wish we could give it to the technicians like, hey, here's where the end of your day is. I really wish we could, because I know that they would love that, but it just unfortunately is not the case. It's very tough this time of year. During the slower times of year, though, we got to be careful, because you can easily start putting tune-ups on a guy and run into overtime during the slow time. And so you definitely want to try to pull the reins back there, and they'll appreciate that for the most part, unless you just have somebody that's wanting overtime. Then you might just give them some extra on-call time. But we do that by we use like the 3.5 during the slower times, the 3.5 calls a day, which means that one guy's going to run 4 because he runs to them fast, and another guy's going to run 3. So we book 3.5 calls a day per tech during the slow periods to help control overtime.
Okay, very good. Sonya, shooting over to you. How do you coach members who continually run into callbacks and warranty calls, thus killing their gross margin?
Sure. I think, again, that comes into ride-alongs. I think you need to ride along with the tech and see what are they missing. Are they rushing their job? I would be looking at a lot of their KPIs too. We've been discussing. Look at their material. Do they have the properly stocked van? If you can get the material and it's not back ordered. I know how that's going right now.
Sure.
But are their vans properly stocked? Are they rushing through jobs? Or is it a technical issue? I think if you don't do the ride along and see what constantly keeps happening, how can you address it? Now, I think you've got to look at callbacks and warranties and say, okay, is it the same common issue happening with everyone? Because a lot of times it could be, one city given a red tag. And if that's happening, that's something we've got to address with everyone so they know how to fix it going forward.
Right.
Or is it just one tech and they're doing sloppy work?
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to the ride-alongs. I think that's really important.
Good stuff. Jake, rapid fire, a few more guys. Jake, you have a bunch of Crown Champions guys selling just crazy amounts of electrical work. What are 2 or 3 products or services they routinely build into their options to get those huge average tickets, and how do they communicate them to homeowners?
So I know Kent Bull's not around anymore, but I got to give credit where credit's due. We took some guys up there and learned a lot from Kent by using a circuit diagnosis to blow that up into bigger jobs. So circuit diagnosis just opens the door, and then from there we find additional problems on the circuit, whether it be the need for rewiring that circuit or redevicing the entire home, and sometimes leads them to a complete rewire of the home. Of course, that includes like services, right? So we're building panels and services. We fully embrace the whole arc fault deal. So rather than being the guy that says, oh, arc faults suck and they're just a problem, we fully embrace that. Code requires it. This is what you're supposed to have. And so we bought in and said, hey, there should be arc faults everywhere. So then that necessitates often some of these upgrades in order to get the arc fault to hold.
Okay, good stuff. Very good. Jim, I'm going to throw a question to you. How do you teach your salespeople how to avoid discounting right away, just to get over, the price objection when they're selling equipment in the home? Obviously that kills margin. So what's their system for getting drops approved? And how does that influence or impact the salesperson individually when he or she does that?
Well, first of all, we role play. I gotta let you know my battery's getting low here. I might have to log back in on my phone.
That's all right.
It was full battery when we started. But if you lose me, I'll log back in on my phone. I was looking for an outlet, but this isn't my vehicle; it's my wife's vehicle, so I don't know where it's at.
No, that's all right.
But we commonly role play the 5 or 6 most common objections. Hey, I'm just thinking about it, or the price is too high, or I want to talk to my wife, or the brand objection, or the most common objections that you see. We role play those very, very commonly, and that's how we manage it mostly. It's just really role play through the most common objections, and when you do that, you don't run into those type of problems very often. So
so your discounting isn't a huge issue with CJS. You don't run into that too much.
Well, the other thing that we do to really discourage it is we have a sliding commission calculator. So every time you drop a %, you lose something in commission. So it's not equal percent for percent, obviously, but you might lose 1/8 of a %. I can't remember exactly what it is. Adam's adjusted it a couple of times, but when you drop, you lose something too.
You feel
every
it.
%.
Yeah, it does. It's not any like, oh, sure, go ahead, you can take another 10%. Yeah, for sure. They have skin in the game. Excellent, great. Well, all 3 of you, thank you so much for all your time today. I'm going to open it up. We've got a bunch of attendees on. I think you can type questions in, and I could throw it out to the crew here if anyone has any. I will allow you to enter those now.
Bob, we do have a couple questions that come in, if you can see them there in the question section.
Let's see. Was with the customer signing contract. Is that
no, not that one.
No. Well, can you help me out? I'm not
sure. First one is, can you please explain further the sales to revenue KPI?
Yes, from Helen. Anyone want to take that one? Please explain further the sales to revenue KPI. Not sure.
I'm not
may have mentioned that. We are watching for sales to lead revenue, right? So we should be selling at least as much as we're completing, if not more. Ideally, we'd be building a backlog specifically this time of year. For us and our current budget, that looks like about 6%. So we need to be selling approximately 6% more than we are completing over a given time period to be building a little bit of a backlog coming into when things will slow down, or Christmas time or so.
Right.
I'm not sure that was the question, but possibly.
Yeah, I think that's what that was addressing.
I was kind of reading into that too. Maybe sales to revenue, meaning like in HVAC, we kind of go 70% sales to 30% service. So maybe that's what they meant. And maybe that 70 to 30 ratio will help her understand that. I think if you're in that neighborhood, you're okay. If that's what she meant or he meant.
Okay. Very good. All right, we got a few here, so let's keep rolling. Is your advertising budget as recommended by SGI, or do you use your own percentage of revenue for advertising to achieve the leads needed to attain your KPIs?
I definitely follow the model as close as I can, and I'd say, and that's one of them. Most scenarios, I follow the model as close as I can.
Yeah, excellent. Jake,
we probably push on the top end of what SGI is recommending for marketing. So we're a little bit aggressive there, and then try to make it up in a few other areas. We're intentional about that, but still like really in growth mode. So we push pretty hard on that.
Yeah,
marketing percentage.
Very good. All right, next question is, how often do you, I think this is really towards you, Jake, is how often do you hold remote meetings to discuss progress with the entire field team? How often do you offer training to the entire group of field techs?
Tech team trains twice a week, Monday and Thursday morning for an hour. They have
online.
a 15-minute huddle call starting at 6:47 every morning that they're not in a training meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Quarterly, it's in an effort to like maintain or stay in line with our meeting rhythm that we've established. So quarterly, after doing a quarterly training, we'll spend about a week just solidifying those thoughts, and then we'll bring the whole team together via Zoom and say, hey, here's where we're going, here's the plan, so what we're going to do for next quarter, this is what has to happen to make it happen, and when we hit that goal, this is where we're going to go celebrate.
Excellent. Awesome. Very good. All right. There's two questions. Sorry, another one was coming in. Well, there's one question. If this is being recorded, it will be recorded, and we'll have it on the hub very quickly, and then we will release it on YouTube probably several weeks later, and make it a little easier for you if you're driving around and kind of use that on your phone. Let's see. Another question: after you train and have ride-alongs with your techs, at what point do you let them go after they just aren't hitting their KPIs when everyone else is hitting theirs?
I'll jump in here. We use the progressive discipline chart that's also on the hub. I don't know that I love that name, although that's what it ends up being, if you will. I kind of more or less look at it like the, before you ever go to let a teammate or discipline a teammate, you want to make sure that you've done your job training, that you've given them the right tools, you've given them the right feedback, that you've encouraged them. So there's this whole process of you looking in the mirror first to make sure that you've done what you're supposed to do correctly. And then only then it kind of comes down to either they don't have the ability to do the job, or they don't want to do the job. And that's when it gets into, hey, it's time to either move into another seat, or maybe this isn't a good fit.
Mm-hmm. How long is that? Will you give that? Is that does that end up being months? Is that weeks? When is there an average?
I'd say typically it's going to happen it's going to get noticed within 30 days, and it's going to get resolved within 90 days. So, again, now if it's a brand new hire, it could happen in a week or two. But if it's somebody who's been on your team and done well for you, they've earned the right to be coached up and have a little bit of time spent doing that. So
sure. No, good insight,
hey, Bob,
Jim. Yeah, go ahead, Sonya,
to add on
please.
to what Jim just said, because I'm like him, I don't like the word discipline. To me, it's discipline because they're doing something wrong, and sometimes it's just we've got to help them get better, like he said.
Yeah.
So I've changed it. I don't know if this will help you, Jim, but when I work with people, I say development instead, progressive development plan. How can we help develop them? So I didn't know if that helped Jim with that.
Sure, that's a good nugget. I like it, Sonya. Thank you. Jake, same to you. You've been doing this for a while. I know not everyone works out, right? I wish they would, but what happens when you train and someone's just not quite getting it?
You should go with what Jim said. Sounds like they're way better at it than we are. But along those lines, I mean, we gotta. Again, I'll just reiterate: we've been blessed with a super good team, and so people kind of want to get on board. They want to make that happen. They want to fit, and to the extent that they don't, people recognize that relatively quickly and seem to select out more often than not for us. Like they self-select. They say, "Well, I'm playing on the Yankees, and maybe I shouldn't be."
Yeah. Good stuff. Excellent. Well, guys, we're past the hour, and I don't have any more questions that have dropped in the queue. Sonya, Jim, Jake, thank you again for all your time. Great insight. Definitely a lot packed into about 66 minutes. Just to reiterate to everyone, this is being recorded. It will be on the hub. I don't want to promise tomorrow, but I know it's going to be super soon. And then, like I said, several weeks thereafter, we will make it available on the YouTube channel if you'd like to watch it again in real ease of use instead of having to log in. It'll also be on the podcast player. I get to plug that. You can go ahead and check that out and the other interviews I do on there as well. So with that, gentlemen and lady, thank you so very much again for your time. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you again, everyone tuning in. And I look forward to seeing you all next month with our next monthly member panel. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Right. Take care, guys. That's Sonya Fryar from SGI, Jim Bodine of CGS Heating and Air, and Jake Wheeler of WireOne Electric, sharing their insight on how KPIs drive operational decisions in our very first SGI monthly member panel. As a reminder for SGI members watching or listening, you can get those SGI-specific KPIs by going to your SGI member hub. They're very easy to find. So thanks for joining us. If you feel like you have a great story worth sharing that would also help other contractors, please email me at bhouchin@yoursgi.com. Also, if you enjoyed today's episode, if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're on your favorite podcast player, give us a 5-star review. And please join us for future episodes. It's my promise to you that we will continue to interview successful contractors and other influential individuals in the contracting world. This is The Successful Contractor, powered by Success Group International.
Support for this podcast comes from Goodman. Goodman Manufacturing Company LP produces a complete line of refreshingly affordable air conditioning and heating equipment. All Goodman brand products are designed, engineered, and assembled in the United States. For more information, visit goodmanmfg.com. The Successful Contractor podcast is part of the Success Group International family. SGI is the largest member-owned best practices organization for independent residential services contractors. SGI provides its members a competitive edge through proven proprietary management tools and expertise, marketing programs, training, and group buying power, along with a highly active and eager-to-help membership. For more information about Success Group International, visit www.yoursgi.com. The Successful Contractor Podcast is a production of the Aquila Investment Group, LLC, all rights reserved, 2021.